Next, we'll go on to item 4. I want to dispose of the item that we had closed session. Under item 4B. What was the item that
Did you want to take the special meeting notice first?
Oh, yeah, sorry, the special meeting notice. That's what I wanted to take up. So we're going to go ahead and take up the special meeting notice and open the special meeting. Is there a number? The title, I don't have it in front of me.
Council is to approve a contract and expenditure of up to $50,000 for printing and mailing a ballot correction notice relating to Measure P.
Perfect. So that is what we are going to be taking up at this point. So we'll go ahead and go out to the public, and then we'll allow council member comment and questions after. We'll go out to the public on this issue. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. Councilmember Brando.
Thank you, Council President. I want to go over a couple things relating to this issue. And I think most of Council is kind of all on the same page, but we do need to communicate with the public a little bit. And then I'm going to get into my specific thoughts on the issue. But first, I want to go probably quickly through a timeline. If anybody in Council wants to jump in, they can certainly feel free. But in regards to the issue that's now in front of the community, which is a very controversial issue, it seems that the City of Fresno, in our clerk's office, made a mistake by sending multiple versions of the ballot language to the county clerk. And it was a mistake that happened inside the city clerk's office, which reports to Fresno City Council, not the mayor and his administration. So a lot of people have made comments about why doesn't the mayor do something about it. The real correct answer for that inside baseball is the clerk works for the council. Both the clerk and the attorney are the only two departments that work for the council. And so I think that the mayor has taken the right stand by saying council needs to address this issue. So I'm going to roughly go through a timeline just for the sake of getting it out on the public, in public information. We sent a resolution containing 41-word ballot question to the city clerk for inclusion into the August 9th, 2018 agenda packet. The city attorney wrote that up. But then the proponents, the yes on P side, suggested some changes to that, and we were amenable to those changes. It turned a 41-word ballot statement into a 74-word ballot statement. Unfortunately, both statements were still in document form in the clerk's office. And on the 10th, the city clerk sent the short version, which had been discarded for the longer version, to the county clerk. So we made a mistake there, okay? And that's why we're here today, to talk about that mistake. Then the county clerk on the 15th, they have their own part of this. They published the correct ballot statement, the 74-word longer approved version in the Fresno City Bee, but they sent the short version, the unapproved version, to the ballot to be printed, okay? So in my opinion, the county clerk also made a mistake. And the case I'm building is that there is a lot of folks that had their hand in making a mistake, and why we're here today. Finally, the Yes on P folks had a 10-day review opportunity for them and their attorney to review the ballot language before it was officially printed. And they did not catch that error. And so, in my opinion, even their attorney at least, and maybe some of the Yes on P folks, should have caught that error. And whether they want to hold that attorney accountable, is probably their own decision. But there's three different groups here that could have caught this. The City of Fresno, City Attorney's Office, a City Attorney and the City Clerk's Office could have caught this error. The County Clerk, whose job is to review these documents, should have caught this error. And then the Yes on P folks, doing their due diligence in a fully funded, well-done campaign, they had 10 days to review it, and they should have caught that error. At least, probably the attorney that they pay to do that. So there were three different groups that compounded this problem, and that's why we're sitting here today. I wanted to add a couple of things to the timeline that I noticed. The City of Fresno Attorney's Office was made aware by an email from Elliot Balsh, who's in the audience today. And we were just named in the email, but there was many people that were named in that email that he had caught the error. And Elliot, you probably saw it firsthand when it hit the streets, right? And you probably thought, oh my goodness, this is wrong. And contacted the City Attorney's Office, which immediately contacted the Mayor and Council President Soria. And then that was on Wednesday, October 10th, was when that email came at 12:43 p.m. in the afternoon. The following day, we had a council day. All of this is kind of important. Bear with me. The following day, we had a council day. That was October 11th, Thursday. After closed session, we finished sometime in the mid-afternoon. After closed session, there was a special side meeting where the city attorney, the city clerk, council president, and Councilman Baines met to discuss this issue, okay? And that's fair. I really do believe that probably as council vice president, I should have been there, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. They wanted to discuss what should the city do going forward. And so they had that discussion. The rest of us at this point didn't know about it. And here's what's very interesting to me. And both of my colleagues here are supporters of the Yes on P campaign. But at that time, this would have been a very pressing issue, like, oh my goodness, there's been a ballot screw up. We need to do something about it. And we had a council meeting the following Thursday on the agenda. It would have been easy, and that would have been Thursday the 18th, by the way. So it would have been easy to say, let's add this to that agenda and talk about it on Thursday the 18th. But instead, and I don't know why, we actually canceled the council meeting for the 18th, probably because our agenda wasn't overwhelmingly strong. We didn't have a lot of stuff to do that day. My point in describing that is this thing should have been pushed forward at that point and put on the following Thursday's agenda, and we would have discussed this a week ago. Instead, we let it go, and then we had a special meeting that didn't happen for lack of a quorum. So the Yes on P folks, including my two colleagues that are Yes on P supporters, we could have caught this a little bit earlier, okay? But we're here today, and there's three different components who've made mistakes here. There's the City of Fresno, the clerk's office, the county's clerk's office, and the Yes on P folks. But we can't push this onto somebody else. We can't say what others are going to do. I think we're going to have to determine what we're going to do. If we could, Cindy, if we could put up this ballot language. I'm going to propose something in a minute, but I first want to talk about how I came to my own personal conclusions. This is a very political issue, lots of politics involved, and it's easy. Both sides make excellent cases, okay? I had to come back to my own personal experience of running a carpet cleaning business for 20-something years. Over the course of that time, I hate to admit this, but Blue Ribbon Carpet Care has made mistakes. And it just happens when you do business. And our clerk's office, I know what she feels. It's terrible when you make a mistake and you feel responsible for that. And I've made mistakes in people's homes, and I've had employees that have made mistakes. And when that happens, you have to fix those mistakes. So despite the politics, I believe it's on us to fix a mistake that we originally made. Yes, the clerk and the Yes on P folks have exacerbated the problem with their own mistakes. But the city of Fresno, the council, the clerk's office has made a mistake when we sent the wrong information to the county clerk. Now, what you see in front of you, I'm going to call Exhibit A. And it is a postcard. It's very hard to see. But what it does is it talks about the mistake that was made briefly, and then it gives the correct 74-word ballot language, the correct language that was approved by the Yes on P folks, and the correct language that was the only language that should have been sent to the county clerk. So I don't know if you can see it, but I described it very clearly. It describes what happened, and then it describes the 74 words. And I thank you for bearing with me, but I believe at the end of the day, I wrestled with this over and over, and I could see both sides, but I returned to my business experience. If myself or one of my employees made a mistake, it's on me to do something about it. And I don't turn around and tell my customer, I'm sorry about that mistake. Now I'm not going to do anything about it. That's just not good business. So that's how I arrived at where I'm at today. And I apologize for all the time, but I'm going to make a motion to approve the expense and direct the city clerk to send a mailer. Actually, I'm going to call it this postcard, item A right here, Exhibit A, this postcard to each voting household in the city of Fresno, providing the correct Measure P ballot language, all conditioned upon the Measure P proponents, the Yes on P proponents, providing a full release of claims to be prepared of the city of Fresno to be prepared by the city attorney. So really what that is saying is that I'm making a motion to send out this postcard with the correct language to every voting household in the city of Fresno, provided that the Yes on P people give a full release to the city of Fresno to be drawn up by our attorney. And so that is my motion today.
There's a motion by Councilmember Brandao and a second by Councilmember Baines. Councilmember Baines.
Yeah, really quick. I just wanted to thank Councilmember Brandao for really taking the time to explain to the public some of the things we had to wrestle with, and also wanted to fill in a couple of gaps because he asked a couple of good questions, particularly about when the error was first happened and kind of the timeline there. Councilmember, you ask a good question as to why we didn't bring that forth in the meeting, the meeting immediately following when we found out about it. I think you can probably agree that this may, in fact, be one of the more unique situations that we've ever encountered here. And all the way up until probably yesterday, we've been finding out new information. And I think that there was an effort to want to get more of a complete picture before we made recommendations to this body of what to do, which is probably why we didn't immediately just agendize this and say, hey, this is what we should do, because it was actually pretty complex. And while I know we kind of boiled it down to a couple of errors of fault, it's slightly more expansive than that. It isn't just the city clerk and the county clerk and even Measure P. We have actually a little bit of blame in this as well. Our city attorney's office has a little bit. There were probably 4 or 5 entities, candidly, that could easily, including us, say that we missed a couple things. And I think that the additional time, sadly, we know we're in the middle of a campaign, I think we came to the right conclusion today by maybe not rushing this out and maybe giving an incomplete picture to the public of what happened. I think your explanation today given the extra time that we had, you were able to actually give what I think is a fair representation to the public of what happened, and it was not done maliciously by anyone's office or any one entity. It was a legitimate error on a few people's part. So that was probably, and you know me well enough to know that I try not to rush to judgment. I try to, glean as much information as possible before we make a decision. So that was just to fill in that one gap so the public understands. We took a little bit of time to try to get it right, so we can honestly give what we thought was a fair recommendation to this body. So I'm happy to second your motion. I appreciate it. I think it was well stated, and thank you for taking time to explain to the public, what is a highly unique issue and one that this body's probably never faced before.
Thank you, Councilman Baines. And one of the reasons, and I didn't bring that up to embarrass you or the council president, but we've heard out in the community that every minute that goes by, people are voting, and I get that. But the truth is, the yes on P side could have advanced this more quickly had they really been pushing it. So I don't think that. I do regret that we didn't have the meeting on Monday, and we had to move Monday's meeting to today. But we could have had this discussion a week ago, and it's okay. Like you said, you were trying to figure out at that time. You were trying to figure out what happened. So I get it. I do want to, Council President. I do want to ask the mayor. The mayor's up here on the dais with us this morning. So, Mayor. Having heard this explanation and seen this postcard, are you okay with this solution?
The short answer is yes, and I would add that in 10 years at City Hall, I've never seen such a mess, and we went through a lot of messes. But I believe, irrespective of where you stand on this issue, I think clearly this city has some culpability. I think it's the right thing. And it was, like you said earlier, this was a council decision, and I support the council decision to send the mailer out as you described and cover the cost. Thank you.
City Attorney?
Yeah, I was going to report that I did speak with the lawyer for the proponents, and they do agree to the condition of signing the release, and they have approved the language of the mailer, too.
Great. And, I just want to add, because I know that my council colleague and vice president brought up, I think, a very thorough timeline. I don't remember the exact days, and you're correct. There were some meetings that happened. I think what was attempted during those days before it finally came to the council is to figure out if the city clerk already had the authority to deal with it, right? Because these issues are under her purview. And so as soon as we found out the meeting had already been canceled for the reasons that you have stated, actually many of you guys lobbied me to cancel the meeting because there was really nothing on the agenda. And so I tried to be respectful of some of the requests that you all provide, so I have to balance that. But as soon as we figured out that we needed to quickly move forward with this, we called a special meeting, and I took leadership on that to make sure that we were brought forward, as you said, to address this sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the quorum on that day, but those were the attempts. So I'm glad that you brought those issues up, but I just wanted to make sure that we did fill in the gaps because, at least from my perspective, we were trying to move with this issue expeditiously because it is the right thing to do, to notify the public about the clerical error that occurred. Councilmember Bredefeld.
Yes, question. City Attorney, so as I read this, there were 10 days to review what was sent out. Is that correct?
State law provides for a 10-day inspection period following the completion of the arguments related to an item for anybody to go to the county clerk's office and inspect all of the measure-related documents, yes.
Okay, to know for sure what was going to be mailed out as a sample ballot?
Yes,
Or, okay.
all of the related documents.
Okay.
Including arguments and, yes.
Okay, but once the sample ballot goes out, that review period's over, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so is it, I don't know, I mean, is it customary for everyone who is involved in these measures, whatever measure it is, to review this information to make sure that what is sent out is accurate?
I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that the state statute provides for that opportunity.
Okay, so did the people who are yes on measure, the people who have the committee, I mean, did they have any obligation to make sure that what was sent out was accurate?
I don't know that they have an obligation, but they have that opportunity, and it provides that there's an opportunity to review there. If they believe there's an error, it provides for a procedure to immediately contest it in the courts.
Okay, but that's what the 10-day review is for anyone, obviously people who are involved in the measure, pro or against, to review to make sure what is sent out correctly.
Yes.
Okay, and I know we've had some errors on our side. Did the county have any culpability in any of the errors, the fact that the wrong information went out on the sample ballot?
Well, I wouldn't myself ascribe culpability, but I will say that the county did have both versions of the Measure P ballot language. They were provided the full version as well as the shorter version that the council did not approve. They published in the newspaper the correct longer version and then put on the ballot the shorter incorrect version.
Right, and so in the Fresno B, they sent out the correct version, but in the sample ballot, they sent out the wrong version.
That's correct.
Okay, and do they not, even though they know what is the correct version, they haven't changed their website yet, have they?
To my understanding, that's correct. The resolution that is incorrect is still on the website, and the newspaper notice with the longer version is also on the website.
Okay, and do they know that what they have on their website is incorrect? Maybe the city clerk knows that.
They were provided with a certified correct copy yesterday.
Okay, and it still hasn't been changed?
No, it hasn't.
Okay, so I'm not sure how to interpret that. Do we know how much this mailer will cost?
The price we have quoted is a little high because it includes all registered voters. However, we're waiting for the county to provide us with a number for registered households, which should be considerably lower. And the price at this point is $85,000, so we expect it to be a lot less once we get that new number.
So it's 85, it could be 50, it could be 75, we don't know, but it'll be some kind of number like that. The county is not participating in this mailer that's being sent out, even though we believe that they have some culpability in this.
That's correct.
Okay. The measure Yes on P folks are not contributing to the mailer, even though they had 10 days to review and make sure that there were no errors going out.
My understanding is they're not contributing to the cost of the mailer.
Okay, so it falls on the taxpayers that we represent to send this out, even though there's culpability besides the city. And I regret, the fact that we have some errors in this. So I think we all do, but the county also does, and there is a 10-day review period for a reason. The other concern I have is that when this mailer goes out, that people will interpret this as an endorsement. The city of Fresno is formally endorsing Measure P. Is there a risk to that with this going out like that?
Councilmember Bredefeld, actually, if you read the message on here, it clearly states this is not an endorsement.
I understand, but we know that, that some folks may not fully understand it. This mailer may go out. I know what it says, but I'm concerned that still some people, even though may interpret this in some way, that the city of Fresno is endorsing this. There's a lot of cost to this. There's a lot of culpability to go around besides the city of Fresno. And I don't think we should be spending $85,000 or $75,000 to do this. I have a problem with this, and so I'm not going to support this.
Thank you. Councilmember Capriello.
Thank you, Council President. And actually, my remarks are along the same lines as Member Bredefeld. We all have had business experience, or a lot of us have, and I'm thinking with my colleague here, If you're cleaning carpet and an oil spill comes out of one of your machines, you're responsible for it and you clean it up. This year, I think, is distinguishable because if there is a mistake, there's a 10-day grace period to figure this out. So it's not a direct error on our part, in my view, as perhaps with your cleaning business. By the way, you've cleaned my carpet and you do a great job, just for the record. But in my experience as an attorney in particular, if you have rules and regulations, they need to be followed. So if there's a 10-day period to review for any mistakes and corrections to be made, that's the opportunity to review and make those corrections. And why is that rule available? Because mistakes are made, because incidents happen that require the ballot to be adjusted or reinstated or other issues with it. So that's why you have the 10-day period. And so with that in mind, if there was confusion or otherwise, that's the time to bring it forward, not 20 or 30 days after that period expired. So if that mistake had been corrected within the 10-day period, we would not be here today discussing all these issues and spending a lot of time on this. So and I feel that with Measure P, their enthusiasm and their attorney being present and sending us letters, that energy could have been used during that 10-day period as well. Instead, it was missed by everyone, apparently. On Measure A, I've taken a neutral position. It's up to my constituents, my voters in District 4, to voice their opinion, whether they support it or not. So I feel, though, that the buck does stop with the Measure A proponents. That's their job, their enthusiasm.
Measure P?
Measure P, thank you. What did I say, Measure A? Clint's influencing me a little bit there. But with Measure P, I think it rests with the proponents. There are other issues, but mistake or not, that's why you have the 10-day period. So use your ability to review, come up with a correction, and it's not automatically, but pretty much made without any questions, and we wouldn't be here today. So that's my view on that. So then the next question is there any harm from that language? Has it impacted the Measure A situation? P, thanks for the help, folks. So what is the harm? That's the next question for me. I don't think there is any harm, and why do I say that? I think I left them in my office. I've got like 17 newspaper articles. The radio's been on this for days, and this morning as I pulled in the parking lot, they were discussing it again, the mistake, the correction, all the things that go with it. So I believe, in fact, it's enhanced Measure P with their process because it's brought it to the forefront. We don't hear about Measure A or the other measures that are on the ballot or even the candidates that are on the ballot. All we hear about is Measure P. So I think, in fact, there's no harm, and in fact, it's been a service to the Measure P proponents. And with that in mind, District 4, we're trying to get a community center. We've had a lot of support from my colleagues. We have a long way to go on the financing of that. And $85,000 would go a long way toward the planning of my community center for District 4 and for the city of Fresno. We're in a central location, and we could service the entire community with that. So I'm very, very watchful of the dollars that we're spending. And with that, I will not support the motion. Thank you.
Councilmember Chavez.
All right, thank you, President Soria, and I agree with some of the comments that my colleagues made. I think, for me, it's very simple. A mistake was made, which we'll figure out the blame proportionally later to this. But for me, this is an attempt to try to correct or at least mitigate. And as I said publicly before, for me, one of the main factors was the litigation exposure that the city currently has with the mistake that was made, and being that the ESMP folks accepted to release the city from future liabilities, that was very important to me, because I think for me, being a steward of taxpayer dollars, I wanted to make sure that that protection was there in the future for any potential litigation. But let's just be realistically honest about this. I don't think a postcard being sent is going to affect folks, especially when they're receiving 10, 15 pieces of mail right now. They're being flooded, right? And so I think for me, you know, the exposure piece was a big factor in agreeing to this, and being that the ESMP folks accepted to release the city from that liability, I'm comfortable with that, and so I'll be supporting.
Thank you. Councilmember Olivier.
Thank you. I just wanted to give an explanation for the way I'm going to vote. I agree with Councilmember Capriolio and Councilmember BREDEFELD. I think that it may be unfortunate, but I think that some folks are going to construe the receipt of this postcard as an endorsement of Measure P by the city of Fresno. And we can shake our heads, we can say that's absurd, but you know, that may occur. I think that to me, and there may be a different legal definition, but to me, to send out, you know, in this period of an election cycle, words are very, very critical, and every word matters, and that's why political candidates and people running ballot measures spend so much money to put critical words in people's hands. I think that in this case, to spend taxpayer money on this, whether a mistake was made or not, I think could influence the election. We hear a lot of talk about influencing the election. I think we're going to influence the election with this postcard. I think that it's could be construed as a gift of public funds, and I think that you know, that we should not be sending this. One of my colleagues, I just wrote down the quote. I don't think a postcard sent out at this time is going to make much of a difference. So why send it? I think that we must proceed very cautiously, and for that reason, I'll be voting no on this and would urge my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. The screen is clear. I will just say that I appreciate everyone's comments. I think that, you know, it's been a productive debate, but I think that we do have some sense of responsibility, and I will be supportive of ensuring that the voters of this city understand what the intent behind what this council passed unanimously back to put on the ballot is reflected accurately when they do receive the notice. So I'll be supportive of that. On another note, in terms of, I know we've had a conversation about the county clerk, and I know that this is not related to the motion, but I would encourage the county clerk to change their website to reflect what was actually voted by this council. It is my understanding that our city clerk has sent over the actual resolution that was voted by this body. So I would urge the county clerk to also correct what she has posted, so that if anyone else goes on the website, and who knows how many folks go on the website, but that is a true reflection of what this body did vote on. I know that our intent behind what we are doing today is to mitigate, because we are not fixing the entire issue. Some people have already voted, but at least the residents of this city will see that this council is attempting to do the right thing, and that is to mitigate the issue and ensure that everyone is clear with what the language was supposed to be on the ballot that they have, or that they will be seeing on November 6th when they go to the polls. And again, it's very clear on the language that this is not an endorsement of the measure. Again, I want to thank everyone for their comments and discussion. So there is a motion by Councilmember Brandau, a second by Councilmember Baines, and we'll go ahead and do the vote electronically. So vote yes is to send the notification. No vote is to not send the notification. The motion carries 4-3. Thank you.